This is the Doctor, President-elect of the High Council of Time Lords.
I am definitely a madman with a box.
Anyone for jelly, baby?
I'm the Doctor. I'm 904 years old. I'm from the planet Gallifrey in the constellation of Castabras.
Hey Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
Welcome to episode 55. Hope you guys have had a cracking week. How have you been, buddy?
Yes, it's been great. Yeah, it's been a good week, actually.
I'm not happy with you.
Why?
You know why.
Well, would it be because, actually, you're not the only one that's not happy. My remote control K9 is furious. In fact, I had to run down the path and stop him from leaving the other day, so put out. Because,
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. For the benefit of the listeners and anyone who hasn't seen my Facebook page, I had a delivery yesterday of a little fella called BB-8, who's from the new Star Wars film, Force Awakens. He's like a little voice-activated toy. Well, actually, he's not that little, and he weighs a ton. Yeah, he's absolutely awesome. Yeah. I am just like, oh, I love it. It's my new favourite toy, which is why K9's a bit put out.
No, I don't blame him.
Yeah, but you got some cool Star Wars stuff.
I got a few bits.
Yeah.
All in Star Wars. Sorry, not to do a Star Wars takeover or anything, but Adam and I are getting quite excited about the new film coming up December.
There is, and there's something about that little droid. I mean, I haven't even met him on the big screen yet. It's just something about BB-8 that I just love him already. Yeah.
Do you know what's cool about him?
What?
Is that they've done him as a physical, actual model that moves without CG.
Yes. Oh, right. Okay, I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah. So there are a few scenes in the movie where he is CG, but the most part, it's actually a physical model. So, you know, like, it's basically a large sphere, and then he's got like this dome thing on top. And somehow they've managed to do it where the dome on top stays on top as he's rolling around and stuff.
Yeah, I know. I just love it. It's
just awesome.
It's sort of simple but really clever at the same time. I just love it. I really hope he turns out to be good. I hope he's not going to turn out to be like Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, God.
No, I'm sure he won't. Because he just looks cool, and I absolutely love it.
Cool,
it's on my shelf. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
What have you been up to, man? Other than buying cool.
Yeah, I was going to say,
stuff.
for those listening that think they've tuned into a Star Wars podcast, this is Doctor Who podcast. Doctor Who wise, I've been listening to The Last Adventure. I've listened to the first two stories.
Oh, cool.
So Colin Baker's Regeneration set for Big Finish. Really enjoying that. First story is good, not amazing, but good. Second story, really, really enjoyed. I've enjoyed both, but yeah, I found the first one a little bit, don't know, sort of didn't really go anywhere, but it still was enjoyable. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that. And I finally, the Complete History, Doctor Who, the Complete History books, or mag, whatever you want to call it, has hit the shops, because I saw a few friends had this ages ago. They did like, what do they call it, when a test area, so there was sort of like one miniature part of the country that got it to see how well it sold. So this thing sort of felt like it came out ages ago, and I was getting quite jealous of a friend of mine called Ben, who was doing reviews of it, and I was like, where can I get this thing? But it finally got released yesterday, and the first issue is $1.99, so I snapped that up. And actually had to go get a bus to go and get it, actually, because my local newsagents didn't have it, which was annoying. So I had to go into the next town and get it. But it was worth it. It's I don't know, have you got it yet?
No.
I'm actually seriously thinking of subscribing, because I wanted to see the first issue to sort of get an idea of whether it was good or not. I'm really quite impressed, actually. I mean, it's a good, solid book. It's got loads of information. It's got loads of great photos, loads of great artwork as well. I know that the price goes up massively. So the first one's $1.99, then it goes up. I am aware of that. To be honest, I would subscribe to it in a heartbeat. The only thing that's stopping me is that I just don't know where they'd all go. I mean, I'm seriously running out of space, as you can imagine. And I just don't know where I would put them, because it's a fairly reasonable sized book. And when you get the whole set, I mean, I think it's going to go on for 3 years or something mad, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Around that, yeah. And there's loads of them, isn't there? Like 90 of them or something like that?
Yeah, it's a lot of books. I think they do it fortnightly, so it's 2 a month. So yeah, I don't know. I'm really, really torn on it because it's pretty good. I'm quite impressed. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know, but you not tempted with this one?
No, I'm going to pick up the first one, see what it's like. Yeah. I'm just wary of these subscription things.
Yeah.
Only because I don't know. It seems quite cool, and I'm really up for the idea of having the whole behind the scenes thing, on a regular, because I love all that stuff. But I don't know, when you top up the price over a few years, we're talking like hundreds of pounds.
That's I know that is the other thing. Yeah, it's not when you work out over those 3 years, it's a lot of money.
Yeah,
for that collection.
Yeah, and we it's not like we don't spend money on Doctor Who stuff as it is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I might pick up the first one though.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, pick it up. It's Tennant as well, and you like Tennant, so yeah, it's a good
Oh,
little.
yes.
It's perfect, and $1.99, you can't go wrong.
You can't go wrong with $1.99, can you?
No. So what? Apart from buying Star Wars stuff, what else you been up to this week?
What else been up to? Not a lot really. Been watching the review episode.
Yes. I was getting a bit worried because I watched the first 2 episodes at the start of the week, and I thought, I've got a couple of days to watch 3 and 4. And then it was as if the week went by in a blur. It's like I was abducted by aliens or something, because yesterday I was like, oh my God, we're recording tomorrow. I haven't watched episodes 3 and 4. So I was like, yeah, I've managed to fit it in yesterday, but I don't know where this week's gone.
Sucked into a black hole.
It was,
Yeah.
yeah.
Not much else really. We've managed to watch something else though.
I know.
Which is very cool.
I know. I don't know if we should talk about it, but
Yeah,
it's hard not to talk about it, isn't it?
Yeah. So because you guys would have seen on Twitter or Facebook that we've seen the Series 9 opener.
Yes,
and
that was quite a surprise. I mean, you have sort of been emailing the BBC back and forth for a while now about this, about the possibility of getting a preview episodes, so we could sort of get the podcast out and stuff. And I was really surprised when it happened, to be honest. I mean, when you messaged me and said, "Oh, they've given it us, we've got it," I literally couldn't believe it. And I thought, until I actually sat there watching it, I was like, oh my God. And obviously, like, it's made it really difficult because we just can't say anything. No. And I think it's fair to say we're both buzzing, aren't we?
Yes, and we're not going to give away why we're buzzing, whether it's good or bad, whatever. You'll have to wait for our review week after next.
Yeah, but we're going to have a lot to say, let's put it that way.
Yes, that's one thing we will say about it. There is a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
So that's been cool. So the other good thing about that is, getting these episodes a tad earlier is that we can watch them through a good couple of times and, analyse them a bit more, so that our reviews are like top notch for you guys, so that we don't miss anything, and, it's all in depth and stuff. So it's all good.
Yeah, because I must admit, I've already watched this one twice, and I think it's fair to say there's an awful lot going on. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And also, I really hope we get the following episode early, because I'm going to a concert that night, and I was, everybody knows that they're all 2-parters in this story, in this series, I mean. So I was thinking, oh no, I'm not going to get to see, The Witch's Familiar the night it goes out. So hopefully I actually will get to see it, because I already just cannot wait.
Yeah. It's cool. Good times. What else been up to? Just mainly watching TV, really.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
Continued the old Red Dwarf. I'm going. You probably heard me mention that over the last few weeks on a bit of a Red Dwarf rewatch. So I think I'm going through Series 7 or Series 8 at the minute.
How many series of Red Dwarf do they do? Because they do keep coming back, don't they? Like,
yeah, I think they stopped at. I think it was 9 or 10, and then they did a Back to Earth. But then they're filming 2 new series, which is going to start this year. So 11 and 12 will be next year.
And have they still got it? Is it still good, do you think?
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, I think it dipped down a little bit as we get into series. The series that I'm on now, which I think is I'm on Series 8. As it sort of got to the edge of, or the end of the that stuff, it did kind of dip down a little bit. But then when they came back with Back to Earth, that was really, really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then the last, the series that went out, the new series after that went out on Dave. I think it was last year or the year before. That was really, really good. So yeah, I love the dwarf.
Yeah, I
very
used to
cool.
watch it back in the day. I haven't watched it for a while. I must admit, I kind of lost track of it somewhere along the line. But yeah, I used to watch it.
It's a cool convention as well. I might try and get to that next year.
I Red Dwarf convention.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's
Ah.
called Dimension Jump.
All right,
And,
where's that?
It's not in one place. They have it at like different venues, but it's very cool. It's I was looking into it the last couple of days. I've seen some YouTube videos and stuff like that, and they always seem to get good guests at that one from Red Dwarf. They normally get most of the cast there, and some other bits and pieces, and it looks really good. So, yeah.
I can see you going cosplaying as Lister.
Lister.
Yeah.
I think the ultimate Red Dwarf cosplay has got to be Crichton, hasn't it?
Oh, Crichton,
If you
yes.
can pull that off, to a decent degree, then that's
Well, I was trying to think who I'd go as if I was going. I'd probably be Holly, just ahead. but the male one, obviously. Well, I don't know. I could go with the female one.
Yeah,
but,
just a jet black suit.
yeah, that's an easy one,
That's
isn't it?
well, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I remember when I was at the sci-fi costume parade I went to a couple of years ago, there was, as you can imagine, loads of Doctor Who in it. The Cybermen there were unbelievable. And my partner had the easiest costume ever, basically just beige trousers and a black top. And everyone kept saying, who are you meant to be? And all I did was I stuck a prisoner badge on that black top with the number 6 and the bike. And I'm not even exaggerating. Within seconds, he had 4 people come over going, oh, you're a prisoner. Oh, you like the prisoner. And it doesn't even know what the show is. It's just it's the easiest cosplay ever. Just black top, beige trousers and a badge.
Sometimes, less is more.
Exactly.
Minimal
exactly.
works.
Yeah.
Anyways,
indeed.
this is not a Star Wars or a Red Dwarf podcast.
Well, we've covered a lot. We've done Star Wars, Red Dwarf, The Prisoner.
What's
all
going
in
on?
10 minutes. I don't know. We better get into some Who, hadn't we?
I was going to say, this is Doctor Who. Shall we do the news?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. First up in the news this week, so for Series 9, we've now got a confirmed start time from those lovely folks at the Beeb, because for some reason this wasn't... The start time has been confirmed in loads of other countries for like weeks now, but for some reason the UK has not had a time until now. So set your clocks, set your alarms. So Saturday the 19th in the UK, 7:40
7:40, yeah.
PM.
Good. It's a good time, actually. It's a good one, isn't it? Because sometimes they've put it on around 6 o'clock, which I think is too early. 7:40 sort of is a good evening, settle down, getting dark outside time slot, I think.
Yes, it's pretty cool. What did it go out last year? Was it 8 o'clock or 8:30 or something?
Well, this is one of the things that does grind my gears a bit, is that they always seem to chop and change the time. So this one goes out at 7:40, and then next week it might be 8:15, and then, do you know what I mean? That they've done that for the last couple of years, and it kind of annoys me because
Is this a rant? Is this a rant coming on?
Well, it's a mini rant because I don't know. I like, I'm a geek. I like things set in stone, and I like to know that something's on at a certain time. And it throws me when they do that. You know what I mean? It messes with my OCD. So yeah, I'm waiting to see what time the Witch is Familiar is going to wear. But I hope they stick to around the same time, because 7:40 is pretty good, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I think
Yeah.
we definitely need a rant sound effect.
Yeah,
We definitely need that. Right, I'll
Yeah.
sort that out. So yeah, so 7:40. Yeah, I think that is a good time. I think that's quite a cool time. So when will that finish? 8:15. Yeah, it's not too bad.
Is it putting it? What's it going up against? The X Factor, I should imagine.
Probably. Does that start again soon?
It's already started. Yeah,
Oh,
it's already started. So, and it's normally around about this sort of time. So I'm assuming it's going up against it.
Doctor Who, the X Factor.
I mean, it used to be a big deal. I mean, the X Factor's kind of waned off a bit in terms of viewing figures lately. So I don't think it's such a big... Because at one point it was quite a big thing, wasn't it? In terms of, oh no, Doctor Who's going up against the X Factor, it's doomed, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it's really that big a threat anymore. And, I mean, Doctor Who fans are not going to choose the X Factor over Doctor Who anyway, are they? So, yeah, hopefully it won't won't affect it. It's more the sort of like, I think, sort of kids and that whose mums and dads or whatever might want to watch X Factor. They're like, no, I want to watch Doctor Who. It's more that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fighting over the channel
Yeah.
sort of thing, But we've all, they take iPlayer figures into account anyway now, don't they?
They do. Yep.
Yeah, so it's all good.
Which is cool. So, yeah. Series 9, The Magician's Apprentice, 7:40. Don't be late.
Yeah, don't be late. Right, in other news, the Torchwood audios from Big Finish, they're actually launching this month. I don't believe the first one's come out yet, but it must be coming out soon. The Conspiracy, the one starring John Barrowman, that's out this month. Yeah. But they have just announced, because they've sort of been giving little tidbits away about the forthcoming stories, and the second one features Gareth David Lloyd as Yanto, and the third one they've just announced is going to feature Eve Miles and Kai Owen, which, I mean, they're a great pairing anyway. They're brilliant in the series. So yeah, that's coming out in November. So that's the third one in the series. So it's really good because it just shows that we're sort of getting all, a bit more of the original cast coming in. We've got Jack, Yanto, and Gwen, and what was Kai's character called? I've forgotten.
Kai.
Reese, wasn't it?
Reese, yeah.
Yeah, of course, Reese. Yeah. So we're getting a bit more of the original cast coming into Torchwood, and I must admit I haven't pre-ordered the Torchwood yet. I don't know whether to get the first one or just plunge in and sort of get the series, like subscribe. It's two things. It's money, and it comes back to that old thing about space again, because I've got so much Big Finish just sort of piling up that I haven't listened to. So I really want to listen to these. I've held off ordering for the time being, but I am definitely going to get these at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it does sound quite cool. I mean, I like the... I think Big Finish have released a trailer for the first Torchwood one with John Barrowman, so I'm going to have to check that out. It should be pretty cool. But yeah, I think it's just one of those, because there are certain things with Big Finish where I just pre-order because, I'm either excited about the characters or the story. But with Torchwood, I'm not saying it's going to be bad at all. I just think I'd rather just see what the reviews are like first on these ones before I pick them up. But the line that they put out from, producer James Goss put a quite a cool little thing out saying, Captain Jack's the poster boy, Yanto's the style, but Eve and Kai are the heart of Torchwood. Listening to the two of them back together in utter joy, we pick up the story after Miracle Day. So how has life been treating them? It's a delight to find out. So it sounds like it's completely canon, which is good.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a continuation. It's like... It's not, because sometimes when you bring characters back into things, sometimes the writers go down this path of, we need like a big event to bring characters back in or something like that. So this is quite different. This is just a case of, well, Miracle Day's done and dusted. Now we're just picking up, with what's going on. So it's quite cool. That's
quite interesting, because if this is set after Miracle Day and it's mentioning Yanto, I mean, Yanto's dead. He's been dead for ages, but he's in the second story. So it makes me think they're obviously kind of like standalone stories set in different timelines of Torchwood then. Yeah,
maybe.
One would assume, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. So, so Big Finish, the Torchwood stuff. It does look very cool. I'll have to check out that trailer for the first one. What's it called? The John Barrowman one?
The Conspiracy.
The Conspiracy, that's right,
Conspiracy, yeah.
So I will check that out. So that's
coming out this month, yeah.
Yeah, this month. Next up in the news, we have some updates to the Doctor Who Festival. So there was anyone that's bought tickets for this would have seen an email drop in your inbox. I think it was last week or the week before, saying that they were going to announce some new guests and some new stuff. Well, those guests are Mark Gatiss and Nicholas Briggs.
That was my wallet just breathing a huge sigh of relief.
I thought that was a whatever.
Well, it was. It was. It's
right.
Both. It's a whatever, and it's my wallet sighing a huge relief because, not what I was expecting. I was hoping for Jenna, Alex, Maisie. Any of those would have been good. I wasn't. I love Danny the effects man. Brilliant, but I'm not going to pay 15 quid for a photo of him. Sorry, Danny. You're good looking guy and you're great at what you do, but no. And Nick Briggs, he's probably, he's good, I suppose. How much is his photo? Is he 15?
I think it's 15 quid. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Gattis is a good one, but he's only there on the Friday, which I know it's peeved quite a bit of fandom of. So because there was a lot of people saying, "Well, I want a photo of Mark," but no, he's not on the list. But yeah, he's only appearing on the Friday.
Yeah,
so,
which is a bit, because the majority of people will be there at the weekend. So, but yeah, it's quite cool. And then we've got the special effects guys as well. And if you guys don't follow, one of the effects companies is called Real SFX. And they're really good. They're based in Cardiff, so I think they do like 99% of all the special effects for Who. And if you don't follow them on Twitter, you should go. I'll put a link in the show notes. Actually, they've got a really good Twitter feed because if you're the kind of person that likes like little nuggets of behind the scenes stuff while shooting's going on, they quite often pop pics on there of like cast members or like cool stuff that they've built, for the show at the time and stuff. So they do put some really cool little pics on there, some little nuggets of info which you wouldn't necessarily see on the official Doctor Who Twitter feed and stuff like that. So they're worth checking out. But so the festival, it's got a bit of an updated roster, I guess, and some updated stuff. But yeah, I think a lot of people are hoping for a bit more.
I think people are very miffed that Jenna's not there. I think I saw looking at the Doctor Who Facebook page, the comments. I mean, it was they kind of bombarded the page with a lot of negativity. But it was. I mean, I think it's more disappointment, to be honest with you. A lot of people were pointing out, if Jenna's appearing at there's a Blackpool convention or something, people are saying if she can appear at that, how come the BBC can't even get one of the show's leading stars? And I think that's a good point. I mean, this is an official BBC event. I'd expect Jenna to be there, unless there's I'm assuming there is a reason she's not, or, maybe she still will be there. They just haven't announced it. Maybe they're saving a couple of big guns for a little bit closer towards the event. I mean, we're only a couple of months away. So my gut feeling is that's your lot. But yeah, I don't know. She still might be added, but I find it very surprising that she's not on the list yet.
Yeah, me too.
Unless they're saving her as the big draw to sell those remaining tickets closer to it. That's the only thing I can think of, really.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, I'm kind of expecting that to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't, if that makes sense. I'm kind of expecting like I don't know, like 3 weeks before the event for an announcement to go out, But I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't, because I think the program for the day and everything is looking pretty jam packed already. So I think if they try and squeeze anything else in, I don't know.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, that does make sense, actually. Yeah, because I think a lot of people were hoping perhaps we might get some classic Doctors and stuff there. I think that's pretty much a no-no. Like you said, it's time-wise, I just don't think it's going to happen. Yeah. But anyway, Mark Gatiss, Danny Hargreaves, Stephen Moffat hasn't got a photo thing, has he? No, he hasn't got a.
I don't believe so.
No, because I did see a few people saying, "Oh, why isn't he on there?" He's surely there must be some people out there want a photo with Steve-O.
I would say so.
Well, he's the showrunner. I saw a couple of my friends got a picture with Russell T Davies the other day, and he's somebody I'd love to get a photo with. He was down in Cardiff, and he was lovely. Just they got really great pictures with him. I was very jealous about that. So I have got a picture with Stephen, but if I hadn't got one, I'd probably get one. He's the showrunner after all, whether you like him or not. You know what I mean?
Whether you like it or not, yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
He's in the hot seat, so yeah.
Those same two friends, by the way, did also bump into Alex Kingston the 2 days later, or a few days later. I asked for a photo with her, and she declined.
Oh.
She said no. And it's a bit sad, actually, because the two photos they got with Russell are brilliant. They're both, one's dressed up as the 12th Doctor, one's dressed up as the 7th Doctor, and Russell's beaming. He's got a great big smile, looks really nice. The picture that they've got of Alex is of her walking down the street. So they've just got a picture of her back with her hair where she just kind of said no and walked off.
Oh, man.
I must admit, I've only ever met Alex at Collectomania. And to be honest with you, it wasn't a particularly different experience. I paid 20 quid and she wasn't very friendly. I didn't get a photo with her either. It wasn't allowed. And she wouldn't even sign. She wouldn't even dedicate the thing. It was just, Alex Kingston, move along. But there you go. So maybe she's not really so into the fans as much.
Not everyone is, are they?
No. But yeah, Russell, I desperately want to meet Russell.
Yeah.
But he ain't going to be there. Anyway. Right. So what's the last bit of news then? This is brilliant, actually. Yeah, I knew nothing about this until you sent me the link this morning, so I had a quick read of it. This sounds really exciting. Gary, do you like your online games?
Adam, I do like my online games.
Gary, have you ever wanted to create and share your own Doctor Who game?
You know what, Adam? I have wanted to do that in the past.
Well, as of September the 15th, you're going to be able to, because the BBC, if you well, I don't know if we'll probably put a link into this, won't we, on the thing? But the BBC on the official website, they've got a Doctor Who game maker that's launching on the 15th of September. And I'm just going to read this a little bit to you because it sounds really cool, actually. The Doctor Who Game Maker launches on the 15th of September. It's designed to help you create brilliant games using a huge range of heroes, monsters, and worlds visited by the Doctor. So basically, you're going to be able to do exactly what it says. You create your own great game, share it. They're going to have little tutorials in case you're not too sure how to do it. Apparently, it's very, very simple, and you're going to be able to inject all of these sort of monsters and stuff from Doctor Who into it. And you're going to be able to share it online, so others are going to be able to play it. You're going to be able to play other people's games. It sounds like a really cool thing. Really cool.
It does sound awesome, and I'm really happy with the BBC doing this stuff recently. A few weeks back, we put the we told you guys about the Project Dalek that the BBC did, where they wanted you guys to make fan films and all that stuff. That was a cool competition. I think that's closed now. I think it closed yesterday or the day before.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what people did for that. And now they've got this, again, it's all part of this Make It Digital campaign, where the Beeb's just trying to get loads of people online and be creative and stuff. But there isn't a better way to do it than with Doctor Who stuff. So this is really cool. So I'm thinking it's going to be quite easy to do.
It sounds like it from what they're saying, because that's the first thing I thought. Being a bit of a technophobe, I was like, "Oh, is it?" But it sounds like it's going to be quite easy to do. Yeah,
and I just can't. I'm going to have a real good play with this one because I think it's going to be cool to just because they did this for the competition, that Project Dalek as well, where they gave you loads of stuff to get started with. So they gave you all of the Doctor Who audio packs, the logos, the character designs, and they're going to do the same, similar thing for this. So they give you all that stuff. So, they're really encouraging that kind of creativeness within the fan community. And I love that because there isn't many companies or TV channels, whatever, that will do that with their franchises and shows. So you have to give props to the BBC for that. That is very cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I second that as well. So that's what I thought when I was reading this morning. I love the fact that they're really engaging with fans, and like you said, this whole creative thing. The last few sort of little projects that they've released like this, I think it's brilliant. Yeah, really, really, good on the BBC sort of thing. I think it's really great.
Yeah, it is cool. And you never know, anything that you create within these kind of competitions or these opportunities and stuff like that could very well get picked up. A lot of, that's happened a few times already now where fans have made things and the producers or somebody at the BBC have seen it and gone, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And they'll pick it up and they'll use it. So, go for it. Just, go nuts. It's all good.
That's it. Yeah. Go crazy.
Go crazy.
So it's only a couple of days away. In fact, when this goes out tomorrow, you'll be just a few days away from having that online. So you better check that out.
Yeah. It goes live on the 15th. So we'll stick a link to that as well.
Coolio.
That's going to do it for news. Now we've got to get into our review.
Yes.
Adam, what are we doing, buddy?
A cracker of a story, this. The Deadly Assassin.
Doctor, my congratulations. You're just in time for the end. You're insane. You're insane, do you hear? You're releasing a force that nothing can stop. Tasting foot. You can take it with you to your grave. Except that none of you will leave the grave. If you undo that, you'll die as surely as any of us. You can do better than that, Doctor. Even in extremis, I wear the sash of Rattle. Yes! And the President was wearing it when he was shot down. The sash won't protect you. It's damage. You lie.
That music.
That music, yeah.
Predictable as ever, Doctor.
Right. The Deadly Assassin. Back in November from 1976, when it was originally put out. So a 4-parter, 25 minutes each, which is kind of cool. I like that for Classic Who.
Yes. Yeah.
Very cool. Mr. Tom Baker, that is, on his own. No companions.
Yeah, very
on this
unusual,
one.
isn't it? Yeah, because of course on the previous story, which we haven't reviewed yet, Hand of Fear, we said goodbye to the lovely Sarah Jane.
Yeah.
In a very touching scene, and it kind of led in slightly to this story, didn't it? It kind of he gets the call from Gallifrey and says, "You've got to go," and this story picks up kind of straight on from there, doesn't it? With him getting this sort of what would you call it? A psychic premonition?
A precognitive vision.
That's the one.
What you said, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was quite touching, the story before, because he actually, it's not one of those things where, where when we reviewed, what was it, a few weeks ago?
School reunion.
Resurrection of the Daleks.
Oh, Resurrection of the Daleks.
We had Tegan, off her own steam, leaving the guys. We've also seen it with people like Martha Jones and stuff like that. Quite sad for Sarah Jane in the story before, where the Doctor actually says, you can't come.
Yeah.
I can't take you. So this is the end of the road for you, sort of thing. And like you said, it's quite touching, and it's quite a difficult watch because Sarah Jane was so good.
Yeah.
To see her go. And then with this one, you can definitely tell there's a difference in the whole vibe of this story when the Doctor's on his own.
Yeah, because he has to sort of, there are scenes where the Doctor's talking to himself, and with Tom's Doctor that kind of works. He does carry that off. I think perhaps because it's always a bit like when someone talks directly to the screen or whatever, it can be a bit take you out of the action, but it kind of gets away with it in this. And I think from what I understand, if Tom Baker had his way, he wanted to continue the show as him carried it, didn't he? He didn't want a companion, so he was kind of hoping that this would show that he didn't need a companion. And the writers were kind of hoping, Robert Holmes was kind of hoping that this would show Tom that he did. So there's a bit of a conflicting interest with this story, I think, in that sense.
Yeah, and it's not a bad script by Robert Holmes. It's pretty good. We'll come on to the overall vibe and stuff in a little while, but it's not too bad.
Yeah, it's a fairly sort of straightforward script, isn't it?
Yeah, and the story, I'm not going to go into too much detail because it's there isn't really much to say. It's kind of it's a frame job, essentially. So the
stitch up.
It's a stitch up, yeah. So the Master's back, and he frames the Doctor. So the president of the Time Lords gets assassinated, and the Doctor's been framed. So he's going to go on trial, which ultimately leads to death, basically. So while the Doctor's under arrest or whatever, awaiting his trial, he goes on the case to investigate what's going on, to try and, free his good name. At the same time, there's like a sort of underhanded conspiracy going on. One of the governors or high people within the Time Lords presidential committee thing basically conspired with the Master to kill the president so that he could be president, which was the guy called Goth, Chancellor Goth.
Goth, yeah.
Yep, so he conspired to kill the current president with the Master. The Master basically wanted to frame the Doctor and invoke his ultimate revenge and kill him. The Doctor then goes inside the Matrix, which I'll come on to in a little while, and defeats the Master and his lackeys via the power of his mind, ultimately freeing his good name. And there's like a showdown at the end with the Master, blah, blah, blah. The Doctor goes off. Happy ending. That's basically it.
That's it. And the Master's basically just trying to, because he's at the end of his life cycle, he's basically a sort of mutated skeleton in a black cloak, isn't he, by now? And he looks pretty gross. And he's basically trying to get the sash and the key. And what's the third thing?
Yeah, so he needs to get the sash of Rassilon.
That's it.
The key. And what's the other thing?
There's 3, isn't there?
Yeah.
I can't think what the other one is. But he's basically
something
trying to get them to unlock the sort of Eye of Harmony.
The Eye of Harmony.
Yeah, to rejuvenate, his life cycle as well, and also bring down Gallifrey at the same time. So the Master's got quite a lot going on that he wants to do.
He's got a lot on
in
his
a very
plate.
short space of time. Yeah, he's got a grand plan. I think it's fair to say, isn't it, to sort of kill about 4 birds with one stone. Yeah,
And of course, the Eye of Harmony comes back for the Doctor Who movie.
it does. Yeah.
Nicely, a bit nicer designed for that ultimately, but
Yeah.
but yeah. So that's basically the gist. It's a frame job, and the Doctor has to prove his innocence effectively, while at the same time taking down the Master before he destroys all of Gallifrey.
Yeah, that's right.
Basically. Where do we start with this one? So, I was a bit bored in this one, mate.
Were you really? Okay.
Yeah, I was a little bit bored because I quite like the premise for this, and the story was quite cool. But I just found it in each of the 4 episodes, especially for some reason towards the beginning. In sort of halfway through each episode, I found myself a bit like, okay.
Sort of drifting off a bit.
I was drifting off a little bit, yeah. It didn't really hold my attention for that long, really. And by the end of the 4th episode, I was, the showdown with the Master at the end was quite cool.
Yeah.
But the thing with that I think made me drift off a bit was, I think it was the direction mainly. Because in each episode there was quite a few scenes where things moved extremely slowly. Mm-hmm. A couple of examples would be there's a scene where the Doctor's mind has been transmitted into the Matrix thingy, and he's on this planet, and the Master has sent Chancellor Goth in there as well, to try and kill the Doctor's mind, ultimately killing him.
Yeah.
And there's a bit where he's like, he's running around a quarry for a little while. It couldn't be Classic Who without a quarry, could it?
No, that's right.
So he's legging around a quarry for a little while. He's wandering through a swamp. Even the fight scene between the Doctor and Goth in the little pond thing was extremely, I don't know, it was just extremely slow and boring to me.
A bit dragged out.
Yeah, and there's a bit where the Doctor's wandering through, he's climbing up a tree and he's fired a dart at this guy, and it all just, I think just the way it's edited as well. Each scene just seems to be very long, the way it's cut together and stuff. And I was thinking, this is, can we speed this up just a tad? Can we get this going a little bit more? And also some of the conversations as well between the other Time Lords.
Right.
I think, the guys that the actors were fairly decent who they got in to play them. But, the best scene to me was between the Doctor and the two guys who were, so the Time Lord that had placed the Doctor under arrest and stuff and was watching over him.
Yeah, the guy with the funny accent.
Yes, he was he Barusa?
No, it's not Barusa.
No.
It's what's his name?
What's his character name? Is it?
It's
Spandrel.
Spandrel, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, Spandrel.
Spandrel, and then like the really old Time Lord, who's like the IT guy.
He's funny.
What's his name? Who was that? That was, crikey, Runcible.
Yes, that's it.
Runcible.
Runcible. Yeah.
Yeah. So those when it was the Doctor and those two, that was quite cool. Some of the conversations that they had were okay, but the other times where the Time Lords was talking, it was quite, I just wasn't really getting much out of it. It
wasn't engaging you.
No, and then there was this annoying guy as well. He was like this kind of pseudo news reporter guy for Gallifrey.
Oh, him. Yeah.
He was quite annoying, and yeah. So I know that a lot of you guys were thinking, this is quite a good Tom Baker classic story, but I'll be honest, guys, I just didn't really dig into this one. What did you think overall?
Well, I've always really quite liked this one, actually. I like the Deadly Assassin. I do. I think the bit you're talking about in the quarry, episode 3, always sticks in my mind as being the best episode. But having watched it yesterday, I do see what you mean about it being a bit slow. I think I'm kind of used to it though. I didn't get bored, but I know what you mean. it's a very sort of drawn episode, but I like the sort of visuals in it. I like the weirdness of it, like, you know, with the clown in the sand in the mirror and all the sort of strange things that we get to see. The doctor with the big needle, the guy in the train. You know, I think I sort of like the surrealism of that episode, but I do get where you're coming from. And one of the things I noted yesterday actually was about the direction, and it's directed by David Maloney, a Doctor Who stalwart. So it is a bit flatly directed. And I would have loved to have seen somebody like Dougie Camfield direct this. I think he would have really sharpened it up, because at the heart of it, I do really like the story. I think there's a lot going for it. But I do kind of side with you on the way it's directed, and it is a bit sluggish at times. But overall, I quite enjoy it. I like what's going on. I like this sort of this battle between the Doctor and the Master all the way through the story, whether it be in the Matrix or the big finale at the end. I do like the fact it's a sort of Doctor Master story at the heart of it, and that them two playing off each other. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from on that.
Yeah, and there is some very cool things about the story. I really like the whole being on Gallifrey and the whole Time Lords thing. That's quite cool. And it's interesting to see, even back in the classic years, how they portrayed the Time Lords, because, you know, if you were a lot of the conversations that the Doctor has with either companions or, you know, anybody else, for some reason, the Time Lords always come across as like this very, you know, almost like, you know, just an amazing race of people who are like these, you know, brilliant minds and, you know, and all sort of thing. But even back here on the classic years, you can tell that, it's blindingly obvious that there's corruption and there's, you know, underhandedness and all that stuff, which I quite like. So that was quite cool. And I think it was mainly, it must have been like time or certainly budget and stuff like that, but it would have been cool to see a bit more of where they were, you know, in like the Citadel where they were and stuff like that, and a bit more of Gallifrey. So, you know, all that stuff was quite cool. And like I said, the supporting cast that they got in, I thought they were quite cool. Even the guy with the weird accent wasn't too bad. So there was that, and there was some other cool stuff as well, such as like this whole idea. Do you know what? The two guys who made the movie The Matrix with Keanu Reeves, they would have definitely seen this.
I think so.
It's exactly the same. It's like, you know, it's not your physical body doing anything, going into battle or anything. You know, your mind is, you know, purposefully put into a computer, into a network, and then through your mind, you're controlling everything that's going on within the Matrix. Even they even ripped the name off.
Yes, right.
I mean, so how did the BBC not file a complete and utter copyright? Well, not a copyright, but like I don't know what you call it, but
lawsuit. Yeah.
I mean something, because
they missed the trick. Yeah.
The actual theory behind it, the story, is identical.
Like if you die in the Matrix, you die in real life, sort of thing. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So it's
which is a great concept, actually. I think that's one of the big things that pluses that this story has. One of the things it's got going for it. That's a great concept.
Yeah.
And like you said, nowadays it's easy to sort of overlook that as just being, that's been done, like you just said, that's been done before. But if you think about it, back in 1976, that's a really cool idea.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I did like about it. That whole Matrix, or we're going to call it the APC net, whatever you want to call it. That whole thing was very cool. I like that idea. It was just the fact that once the Doctor is inside there, you know, it's and I think it goes back to what I say about how it was edited together and so on. Like, there's a scene where he's like dangling off like the edge of a cliff at the quarry, and he's flung his scarf up round the tree, and he's hanging there. And then this guy turns up, like this samurai-looking guy. And that scene lasts for ages. Like he's looking up at the samurai guy. The guy's drawn his sword, and he's standing there. And then it goes back to the Doctor, and he's like, and it goes back to that guy. Then it goes back to the Doctor, and he's still hanging there.
Then it's his eyes, close up at the eyes.
I was thinking, just cut the freaking scarf already.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I know,
so, but there are some cool stuff. There's some cool stuff, though. What did you think to the opening of this episode? Because we have this kind of narrative thing, don't we?
That's really weird. Yeah, I'd completely forgotten about that. Is a while since I've watched this one, actually. And yeah, when it started with that scrolling text and Tom Baker reading, it sort of reminded me of Blackadder or something. I was thinking, what is this? It's yeah, I don't like that bit at the start, but the scrolling, I don't know, it just seems really out of place and unusual. It's sort of, I don't know, almost sort of takes me out of the story a bit. But yeah, very unusual start. And then it kind of, the first episode is the Doctor sort of just trying to hide from the Time Lords, isn't it? I mean, it's basically him sort of running around trying to figure out what's going on, and then he picks up the gun, which I think is really strange because he knows that the president, because he's had the premonition, so he knows the president's about to be shot. So it's bizarre that he picks up the gun and looks down the sight as if he's about to shoot him. But yeah, it's a strange first episode. Yeah,
it is. And I didn't really get the whole opening narrative thing with the text scrolling as well. It kind of felt like it kind of removes it out of the continuity of the series, because they haven't done that before or after, have they?
No, not them. No.
As far as I'm aware, you guys might be able to correct us on that, but I don't know of any other classic Who story where the Doctor is narrating, like, what's going on in like a Flash Gordon-y, Star Wars kind of thing. I don't know. But it kind of felt out of place to me. I mean, I think if it was a regular thing that would have become the norm for that series, it might not have felt out of place as much, but it did remove me a little bit from the series. I thought to myself, is this like a one-off, isolated story that's like a, was it a special kind of thing, or Christmas special? I don't know, or something like that. I don't know, but
yeah, no, I did make a note of that. I mean, I was when it started, I did think, God, what's this? I didn't remember that bit at all, and it is a strange thing. I'm not quite sure why they open it like that. Yeah. I just wanted to go back to the Time Lords actually, because another thing I'd forgotten is, I mean, the Time Lords is a very powerful race, but in this particular sort of episode, they're very it's very of the time. They're almost very British. Yes. Reminding me a bit like we talked about before in other stories, where they're incredibly sort of posh. Most of them are quite elderly or old, aren't they? They sort of remind me of a bunch of sort of I don't know. They feel like a sort of committee or something. They do come across as powerful in a sense, but they also come across as sort of like a load of bumbling old fools as well, don't they? In a way, like the way they talk, like you said, they're all very posh, and that's not my cloak and all this. It's all, I don't know. Then they're not quite how I perceive the Time Lords, or even how they've sort of been portrayed in other stories. I mean, I was thinking back to the Three Doctors when we see them there. They feel a bit more grand and a bit more sort of powerful, even though they're not in it that much. Well, but in this, they just sort of seem like, it's almost like a bit like an old Time Lords retirement home in a way. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're quite likable characters. They're quite sort of gentle, and they don't come across as the big powerful race that I mean, we only get to meet a few characters, so I'm assuming that we just are focusing on these particular ones. That's how I'm playing out in my mind, to sort of excuse it. But yeah, they're all just a little bit sort of too posh for me in this. No, but it kind of works. I mean, it adds a bit of a comical element to it. I mean, like when the Doctor's on trial and he's drawing the sketch, and that's almost played for laughs, that scene, and it should be quite a serious scene because the Doctor's on trial about to be sentenced to death. But it's kind of sort of played light-hearted, isn't it, that particular bit?
Yeah, it does. It's kind of weird as well to see the Doctor just drawing like cartoony sketches and stuff. It's like it juxtaposes the whole seriousness and the weight of what's going on. It's that whole scene should be, I mean, I get why they did that, because the Doctor's, he's just totally not bothered at all. He's just, he's just doing something to, to make the time pass a bit quicker, because he knows that, what they're saying is ultimately, convicting him of something he hasn't done. He just wants to get on and, and sort this out. So I can see why they did that, but it just takes away the importance of that scene. And yeah, you're absolutely right with the whole Time Lords thing. I mean, if you think about how the Time Lords are in Colin Baker's, very, very drawn out, Trial of a Time Lord, they're completely different.
Yeah.
They're very assertive and very, they do come across as each character very powerful and
a very serious sort of
yes.
thing. Yeah.
Whereas in this one, I like your thing about it's like a retirement home for
Gallifrey retirement home.
So yeah, I do get that vibe as well. You know,
I'm also thinking about the reporter, the news reporter that you mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
He's very British, and it's almost, again, it feels a little bit too close to home in a way, in the way it's done, because he is basically being like a BBC reporter, but in a Gallifreyan outfit. What would you call their headgear? I can't remember what it's called. In one of those.
Yes,
a very cool headgear,
things.
shoulder and headgear.
Yeah.
But the way he's acting it and the way it's being done is very sort of as if he's a BBC reporter, isn't it? He's like, hello, and welcome to the Gallifrey. You know what I mean? It's very sort of posh, very sort of thing. But he does annoy me, that character, to begin with. But then there's a little scene between him and the Doctor, which I really quite liked, which is where the reporter's not interested in the Doctor at all. And so the Doctor starts complimenting him, and then he suddenly turns and sort of starts, taking the praise and chatting to the Doctor. I liked that little scene between him and the Doctor. But again, the fact that he is so sort of upper class, would you call it, or posh, and that, it did sort of take me away from the fact that we're supposed to be on Gallifrey a little bit.
Yes, that's why I mentioned him earlier. He's kind of, again, that was something to me that felt out of place.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
For this story, and I don't mean to go down a completely negative vibe for this story, because it was fairly good in a lot of places, but there were certain things where, and like I said, it must be down to the script and combination of the direction and stuff. There were things that just didn't fit, like the whole importance of, if you think about the story from the committee's point of view, or the presidential committee, whatever. If you think about this from their point of view, their president has just been assassinated in front of them. And as far as they know, because the Doctor's been framed, it's a Time Lord that's come back to Gallifrey to do that. So that's a massive thing. That's like, really, imagine if that was to happen, to David Cameron.
Yeah.
So, but the whole importance of that and the weight of that story doesn't come across to me. It's almost like, oh, the president's been assassinated. And now they've got this kind of typically British humorous kind of guy doing like a news report. And then we go on to something else, which is quite funny. So it is kind of weird, and it does feel like it's been not correctly kind of written out and stuff. It almost feels like somebody said, right, we need a script for this story. Here's a story that I've got in mind. We need a script for it. And not enough time's been taken to really go through it. It's kind of been knocked up quickly, like, right, let's go with that.
Yeah,
that's what it feels like. So, but yeah, so...
I was going to say, looking at it through a sort of critical point of view as well, because as I say, I quite enjoy this story, but obviously when you're watching it to make notes and stuff, you sort of do tend to sort of notice things that you wouldn't bother you as a sort of casual viewer when I'm watching it just for enjoyment, but for review you notice. Because I mean, I think I might have been getting this slightly mixed up in my head with the I've forgotten the name of it. The other one where the Tom Baker goes back. The time I can't get Time Warrior out of my head. It's not the Time Warrior, but basically what I didn't think looked very good was actually the sets. Like Gallifrey looked pretty rubbish to me. Like these sort of, because I'm colorblind, but are they green? Those walls. It's got sort of like these shiny greeny walls, and it's very dark and dingy, isn't it? And as I say, the reason I mentioned that other story is because the one I was thinking of in my head, I thought it kind of looked quite good. The sets, from what I remembered, all these sort of clocks, sort of cogs on the wall and stuff. Mm-hmm. What is that story called? The Invasion, Time Invasion? I can't remember now. But yeah. So I again, because I haven't watched this for a while, the first sort of 2 episodes where it's very much set in that studio set, I was thinking it's really pretty. It looks shoddy. I mean, it's a budget thing. I know it's of the time, but it doesn't. Again, it didn't represent Gallifrey how I was picturing it in my head when I started to watch it. I was thinking, the sets look pretty rubbish for Gallifrey. Not again. It's it's of the time, but yeah, I think in my head I was sort of picturing a different story. So I was a little bit disappointed, sort of, when these spent 2 episodes sort of walking around these quite dingy, looking pretty bad sets. I mean, the actual sort of panopticon bit is fairly decent, but again, it looks very sort of sparse, I suppose.
Yes.
I don't think they haven't gone crazy with the set design, which is a shame, because when the Doctor visits Gallifrey, I think you want it to be a little bit more impressive, But I get it; it's of the time. I'm not sort of criticizing it, but it is just one of those things that I sort of made a note of, thinking, no, it's not as good as I remember, if you know what I mean.
No, I read you.
I think we've seen Gallifrey done better in other stories that perhaps aren't as good as this story.
Yes.
Yeah,
No, I read you.
from a similar time period.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. So the way that the Time Lords were portrayed, and as well as, Gallifrey and the little tiny building or the sets that we see, I'm assuming that's just a budget thing.
Yeah.
Because that has to be the case. I'm sure if they really wanted to, they would have created these much larger sets and stuff like that. But yeah, don't know. Right. What did you think to the Master? Let's move on to that guy.
Yeah, Peter Pratt.
Peter Pratt.
Yeah. Obviously, he's under a lot, is under that mask. I think visually he looks good. The only thing with the mask is obviously the eyes don't work. The eyes don't move. So they look gross, and it looks brilliant as a sort of horrific figure. But it kind of has no animation to it in that sense to bring it alive. Do you know what I mean? So when we get a great close-up of him looking up and those horrible yellowy, slimy eyes, it looks great, but it kind of also just looks like a mask because they don't move. So, yeah, in terms of the costume, I like the look of it, but I don't think it quite brings the character to life.
Yeah.
In terms of Peter Pratt as the Master, I think he does a good job with what he's given. I mean, he's just playing it as the evil sort of cloaked villain, really. Yeah, I think he does a decent enough job.
Yeah, he has got that kind of Skeletor, kind of
yes,
evil, cackly, sinister kind of thing going on, which is quite cool. And I quite like his performance. He's quite cool. I just think that he's hindered too much by the mask and the costume. I mean, they've got some bit of movement. I think the jaw moves up and down a little bit, as he's talking. But that's your lot, really. So you immediately think, there's a guy in a rubber mask, or a costume, whatever. So you can't help but think that as you're watching him. But it didn't really detract too much, to be honest with you. And again, I appreciate that, it's kind of, of the time, as we've said, and budget and all that stuff. So you kind of, as is very often with the case with classic Who, you do forgive that stuff a lot of the time. And like we've said before, it's kind of the charm as well. The crappy effects and the awful puppetry and sometimes stuff, that's the charm, quite a lot of Who. But I just think when there's quite an important performance, from an important character within a series, you'd want to kind of spend a little bit more of the money on that stuff, like his costume and stuff. But because
I'm trying to think, when we get to see the Master again in The Keeper of Traken, they kind of, it's not so much of a sort of solid mask. It's it's kind of like it's a similar looking face, but they've kind of sort of applied the makeup more to the actor's face. So it slightly works better in terms of, giving you a bit more performance, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. And it's, but overall, I think it was quite cool. His performance anyway. And the only other thing was the way that he delivers his lines and stuff like this. And we've had this before with, I think it was one of the Peter Davison stories that we reviewed. Who was the guy in the big fish suit? What was the story called?
The big fish suit?
Yeah. Or was it a fish suit or something like that?
Are you thinking of Visitation?
Yeah.
Right, yeah, okay. Well, he's not a fish. He's a pterodactyl.
A pterodactyl.
Pterodactyl.
Pterodactyl, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
It was that kind of vibe where the voice hasn't been treated in any way. So when the actor's delivering the lines on the set, he has to really really articulate a bit more so than normal because everything's muffled by the mask.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that I know you can't really get around it because, TV back in the day, that's just the way it was. But the audio clip that I played as an excerpt from that when we first started doing the review, you can't really understand many of the words that he's saying, especially when there's a lot else going on, like collapsing sets and explosions and
Yeah,
and all
because
that
it
kind of
does go
stuff.
pretty mental at the end, doesn't it? And
does
like the
go-
Doctor and him sort of start to have a bit of a conversation. Yeah, and like you said, in terms of the mayhem, they're kind of throwing insults at each other and stuff. And yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it does
Yeah.
hinder it a little bit. Talking of conversation, actually, one of the notes I made was how little dialogue there is in episode 3 when the Doctor's in the Matrix. It's there's about 4 lines in it.
Oh yeah,
Do you
yep.
know what I mean? I mean, obviously, because there's only 2, it's a bit of a two-hander, isn't it? It's only Baker and it's Bernard Horsfall, isn't it?
Yes.
Who
Goth,
play into the.
yep.
I actually quite like him. He's popped up in Doctor Who a few times, and I was thinking he was in the episode we reviewed recently, wasn't he? He's in the Mind Robber, playing the Gulliver.
Oh, Gulliver, yeah, of course.
Yeah. And I think he's been a Time Lord as well. He's been in the War Games as well. But yeah, I quite like him, and he's sort of he makes quite a good villain. He's quite sort of he's got a look about him, and his voice and everything. He's quite sort of menacing. Like, even though he's in that sort of black mask for most of the episode, I think there's something about him,
Yeah.
because he's kind of used as the villain for that whole episode, isn't it? And maybe that's why it drags a bit, because it's a very quiet episode, isn't it? It's all sort of forest sound effects, and there is hardly any dialogue at all in episode 3, which is quite unusual for Doctor Who. It's all visuals and sound effects, really. And it's also quite, for Doctor Who at the time, it's quite gritty. The Doctor's really properly battered and bleeding and shirt ripped, and it's and the scene at the end, obviously, where he's getting drowned, which would cause so much controversy back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how do you feel about that now? Because that caused quite an uproar when this was first shown. Do you think it's uncomfortable seeing I mean, if you imagine that was a cliffhanger for a kid, him being drowned, is it a little bit uncomfortable, or do you not?
Yeah.
Because I was surprised to see on the production notes that when this was repeated, I think it was a year later, due to the uproar about it, they actually erased the last few seconds from the master tape. So that actual end scene didn't exist in the BBC archives, and they restored it on the DVD from an off-air recording. But I'm surprised they went to that length over that tiny little scene. It was just the last sort of frame of him being drowned, that they actually deleted it from the master tape. Seems a little bit over the top to me. I mean, it's an uncomfortable image, but I don't know. Does it warrant that, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just dealing with completely different periods of time, aren't we? I think back in the day, back in the early 70s, it was probably a bit more, you were, I don't think, especially kids anyway, were probably not as exposed to the things that we would see nowadays. So from that perspective, it probably was quite frightening, or quite, I don't know if shocking's the word, but it was probably along those lines for many kids or even adults maybe that were watching it. So
the bit that gets me is when the hunter is on fire in the water and he's screaming. I find that more horrific than the sort of scene. Because I was thinking, that's quite grim, actually. Like, he's probably, again, kids nowadays probably wouldn't bat an eyelid, but I think, looking back to my childhood and even now, I think, that's pretty full on. You know what I mean? And it's not often that we get to see the Doctor so battered either. Do you know what I mean? He's really like beaten up in this.
Oh yeah, he's quite useless for the most part. When he's inside the Matrix, it's not until the end where he has that tear up with Goth, and it's all over that he's kind of made good. But up until that point, he was getting his ass kicked for
big time,
the majority, yeah.
And when he gets his foot stuck in the train thing, that always makes me wince as well.
Oh yeah.
I just thought of another tie-in actually with the Mind Robber, because you've got Bernard Horsfall, obviously, was the Mind Robber as Gulliver, and also in the Matrix, the Doctor keeps getting away from things like the train and any sort of danger by denying reality, doesn't he? He's saying, "I deny it."
Oh yeah.
Which is again a bit similar to the Mind Robber, but obviously in this it sort of works better because the Master just goes, "No, this is my world," and if I say you're bleeding, and all that. So it kind of quickly sort of gets you out of that get out, if you like.
Yeah. No, I read you. Yeah. So scenes like that, I can't really see why that was cut. And like you say, the scene with the guy on fire in the water is visually a bit more horrific. But so I'm glad they put it back in for the DVD though.
Yeah. I was just very surprised to read that they actually
Yeah.
erased it. I would have thought cut it, by all means for a repeat. But, but to actually erase it seems well over the top. What do we think of Baker in this though?
I was going to say, let's finish on on Tom. So, I thought for the most part he was really good.
Yeah.
I don't think there are many Tom Baker stories where you can say that he's not on form. I think sometime towards the edge of his tenure, there are a couple of stories where you can see that because of, as we know now behind the scenes, where, there was a bit of friction between him and certain companions, or he became quite difficult to work with, towards the end of his time. Even then, you can't really say that he's not on form. So, as usual for Tom Baker, I really enjoyed his portrayal as the Doctor, and I really enjoyed his performance and stuff. The only thing that I didn't really, when I finished watching it, I didn't think, well, there wasn't any like memorable moments from him, if that makes sense.
Yes, I know what you mean.
Because he was consistently good. But I think there's a lot of times with Tom Baker stories where there's like one scene or one thing that he does that you can take away that's like, yeah, that is like amazing, typical Tom Baker. Like he might pull this crazy face with these massive eyes, or he might come out with this really cool one-liner that he delivers really well.
Yeah, like the butler, he's so violent in City Death. There's always a little bit, Yeah.
In this one, I didn't really get anything like that from him. So while I thought his performance was really good, consistently throughout, I didn't really take away any of those amazing little Tom Baker moments.
I agree with you. I think the only thing that we get close to that, and it's not even one you'd remember, but it was a nice little line, is at the end when they're trying to think of what they're going to tell people has happened to the Panopticon, and he just says, tell him it was down to a subsidence due to a plague of mice. And that's about the one sort of witty line that he gets. But like you said, it's not a memorable moment. I mean, I only know it because I wrote it down. I just thought, that's a nice line. But I think I did write it down. Now I think about it, it's because, nothing sort of else had sort of stood out in terms of that, like you said, those little Bakerisms that we're used to.
Yeah.
And I think mainly it's because he's playing it a bit more sort of straight in this one. He's basically, what he's given to do is mostly be on the run, isn't it? Throughout the whole story, he's just on the run for most of it. So that's probably why he doesn't really get any sort of moments to sort of spar off people. There's a few nice little bits where he's, like when he's talking to, like the reporter stuff, there's a few tiny little humorous moments and nice moments. But apart from that, he doesn't really get any of those Bakerisms in the script to give us. So I know what you mean by that. Yeah. But he's still good. Yeah, he still gives a good performance. It's quite, as I say, it's quite nice to see the Doctor in such peril as he is in episode 3.
Yeah.
Because he's always in peril, but in that one you really think, he's really put through the mill. Mm-hmm. So that makes quite a change. I'm kind of glad that he didn't get his way and do the rest of the show as a one-hander. I think it's good for the Doctor to have a companion. And I think that's what led to a bit of friction when Louise Jameson was brought on board, because that took a while for them to get going, and he, because he wanted to, he wanted the show to be about him. So, but I think this works as a good one-off. I like the fact the Doctor's on his own. It makes a nice change, but I'm kind of glad that in the next story we get a companion for him.
Yeah, so Leela turns up.
Yeah, and I like Leela. I like Leela as companion.
And then they go on to do a couple of amazing stories as well, like Talons, and what else is there in this one? There's a couple of really, really good episodes coming up in this series.
Robots of Death is one of my favourites with Leela. I absolutely love her in that.
We reviewed that. Yep.
Yeah. I was going to say Talons is a classic. I'm just going forward on Wiki because I really want to know that one that I was trying to think of earlier. Where I was saying about when the Doctor goes back to Gallifrey and he takes Leela with him, I'm pretty sure.
I think it's...
is it called The Invasion of Time or something?
I was going to say, I think, The Invasion of Time, Yeah,
because I haven't watched that for a very long time, but I do seem to remember it being quite different, a different feel to it. It might have been in the next series, actually. Maybe that's why. But I'm pretty sure Leela's with him in that one.
Yes, he is.
Memory plays tricks. Yeah, it gets worse as you go.
K9.
Oh, yeah, of course, K9. Yeah.
Yay. Yeah, that's quite cool, actually, because Barossa's in that one again. And so that's quite cool.
So, overall, cast-wise, Baker's good, Pratt good. The people playing the Time Lords, although they're played for laughs, are still good. I do like the bumbling chap, who's there's the guy with the funny accent. What's the something beginning with S? Spandrel, is it?
Is it Spandrel? Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Terrible with names, but yeah, him and the other bumbling guy, Runcible.
Yep.
Again, it adds a bit of humour to it, but overall, the sort of supporting cast are decent. Yeah, I think. But yeah, they're not really, like you said, not really given a great deal to do. So, yeah.
So let's move on to scores. I don't think there's anything else to talk about for this one.
No, okay.
Who's going to go? Whose turn is it?
Your turn to go first, I think.
Okay. I will give this a 6.
A 6, right? Okay.
Yep.
See, for me, that's a bit low. I think it's. I quite like the story. I'm going to give it an 8.
An 8. Okay.
Yeah, an 8 out of 10.
Right. Yeah, that's cool.
I quite enjoy it. It's a good one.
Okay. I would have scored it slightly higher. But the only thing for me was I found it a little bit boring to watch. Slightly predictable as well.
Predictable as ever,
As
Doctor.
ever,
Yeah.
yeah.
Love that line. Sorry.
And I thought that, and I thought also that the whole, while I really was quite excited, and quite up for the whole story of being on Gallifrey and seeing all the Time Lords and stuff, they were a bit of a letdown. Like you said, a bit like just some bumbling old fools, and
I have to be honest. Yeah, I have to be completely honest with you. It watching it again this week, it's not quite as good as I remember. I will say that. I still really enjoyed it, but in my head, I always think of this as being an absolute classic. Having watched it again, I still think it's really good. I still really like it, but it didn't quite live up to how my memory had placed it. Right, I will be honest. Yeah, I still think it's good though, but don't know. There were bits of it I thought, not quite as good as my memory held it, but still, I really like it. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so 8 from you, 6 from me.
Yeah.
What did our listeners think? Only a few came through on Facebook, so I don't think it's one of the best stories. Hold on, we had a guy in on Twitter, George Garrity. He said, "Yes, I love this story. I love how the Master is creepily manipulating everyone in this. I have got to say, though, parts of the last episode feel a little bit off, but still brilliant, 9 out of 10.
All right, okay.
Cheers, George. Over on Facebook, Lewis Palmer. The Deadly Assassin is a fantastic story. It really expands the culture of Gallifrey compared to what came before this. Everything inside the Matrix is really creepy, especially the clown. Shudders. And he gave it 9 out of 10. So one thing that I forgot to mention earlier, so thank you, Lewis, for reminding me, is the whole culture of Gallifrey thing. It is the first time that we get introduced to the whole Rassilon thing, which is quite important in the whole kind of lore of the Time Lords and Gallifrey and stuff. So I did like that, actually, that they popped Rassilon in there without any backstory. I thought that was quite cool. Alex Kingdom, he says, love this one. Tom Baker at his best. The train scene is fantastic, and the Master is so creepy, and how he's defeated is great. 9 out of 10 again.
Talking to the Master, I do love the fact he escapes in his clock at the end.
Oh, yes.
I do love the ending that we get the Doctor and his arch enemy both leaving Gallifrey to battle across the universe once again. I do like that.
That's quite cool. Yeah. Jeff Waddle. Always been one of my favourites, partly because it was so different on transmission. Watched it again on a horror channel the other week. Still good, but dated. Very surprised at how little the Master is actually in it. Yeah. 8 out of 10. Adam Time Lord Fishwick. I love that name. A very good and interesting story. And lastly, Jamie Ackerley. Brilliant choice. Best get a rewatch in. So mostly positive from you guys.
Yeah.
Well, really positive. 9 out of 10s, really.
I must admit, I got quite a lot of comments on Geek Sandbag this week, and I think it's because I scheduled my post, and I always schedule it to come out after the blue box. But this week it came out before yours, which I think is why I ended up getting more, because I don't normally.
You stole the thunder.
I stole it, yeah, unintentionally. I'd scheduled it, and it came out before the blue box. So I did get quite a few. I'll whip through these. Jace Howes from 500 Year Diary says, possibly the darkest of all the Four Doctor stories. Tom is on fine form throughout. This story marks the final appearance of Bernard Horsfall in the show, playing Goth. I do love and always have loved The Deadly Assassin, one of the best Gallifrey stories, so Jace really rates that one. Harry Walker, truly brilliant story showing Tom Baker can be brilliant without a companion. The Decaying Master is particularly disturbing, as is some other imagery in the episode. Yeah, there is some disturbing imagery. I do also love the climax and the way Gallifrey and the Time Lords looked. I heard that the person who designed the Time Lord gear designed the Spider-Man costume for the Sam... Oh, you'll know how to pronounce that.
Raimi, yep.
Raimi, Spider-Man trilogy. He's given it a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
And he says, and the third episode inside the Matrix might just be the greatest single episode of the show ever.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Okay.
So really likes that. I do think that the third episode is what sticks in people's minds when they think of this story. It certainly is for me. Cousins, our old friend Cousins, 2019, he says, yes, one of my faves. Love The Deadly Assassin. The Master is finally back after a few years. The story does well without a companion. Well, the Time Lords are kind of the Doctor's companion anyway. The ending for episode 1 or 2, I can't remember. He likes how the show continues from the Hand of Fear. Tom Baker is good as the Doctor, quite different from how he is in later ones. The Master is awesome. He loves the actor who plays him. He's given this, wait for this one, 11 out of 10.
Whoa.
So, yeah.
He likes it.
Cousin loves it.
Yeah.
Stuart Stockwin.
Stu.
Not one he's seen as a full story, but what he remembers, it was really intriguing, good episode with good cliffhangers. So he hasn't seen it for a while. Give it a rewatch, Stuart. Kieran Knight, fantastic. Tom Baker took the idea of the Doctor as a renegade and just ran with it. And like most times, the Doctor is a victim of circumstance. Peter Pratt is creepy as the Master. Bernard Horsfall is suitably grand, and the cliffhangers are some of the most intense in Doctor Who. One small criticism is it isn't really accessible for new fans, as it's quite deep in mythology. And he's given it a 9 out of 10. Yeah, that's a pretty good point, actually.
Yeah.
Club Adipose says, love this story. I remember being so gripped reading the book in the corner of the school library. Happy days. Cool. Actually, it probably would make a good book. George Coppin, love this story. It's one of my favourite eps of all time. It's creepy and the cliffhangers are brilliant. Thank you for reviewing it. 10 out of 10. Yeah, I think George requested this one, didn't he?
Yes.
Seem to remember. Yeah. Glad you enjoyed it, George. Kai McNamee, a cracking Doctor Who twist on the thriller story, turning into an interesting, surreal adventure. Tom is on top form. Peter Pratt gives a sinister performance despite his prosthetic restrictions. 9 out of 10.
Another 9.
Another 9. High scores here. Matt Kelly, this is one I'm out of step with. The Matrix is a fascinating idea, but it's botched in execution. Oh, interesting. It should have been some spectacular shifted vortex of confusion and wonder. Instead, it's a poor man's Tarzan adventure.
Oh.
Finn Walsh, great story. Really love it. 9 out of 10. And we've just got a couple more. Ben Smith, possibly the greatest Doctor Who story ever.
Whoa.
The scenes in The Matrix are frightening but absolutely terrific. It shows a corrupt Time Lord society and adds a lot of mythology of the show, like the regeneration limit. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah.
Peter Pratt's Master is fantastic and looks extremely creepy. It features some of the greatest cliffhangers of all time. Another masterpiece from Robert Holmes. He's given it a 10 out of 10. And the last two, Thomas Andrew Evans. Hello, Thomas. Great story. It was nice to see the Fourth Doctor without a companion. I also really loved the Decaying Master, as that was really creepy. Overall, great episode. 9 out of 10 from Thomas.
Whoa.
And finally, Greg Toby, one of my favourite Tom Baker stories. This show shows that we need more Tom Baker stories without any sort of companion. Wow. Get onto it, you lovely people at Big Finish, he says.
Okay.
Cool.
Wow.
So a lot of positive vibes there from our listeners. Yeah, they really like this one.
A lot of love for the Deadly Assassin. I kind of feel a little bit out of place reviewing it quite low, but then, not gonna dress it up for you guys when that's not how we feel. That's not how we roll.
No, fandom would be boring if we all like the same stories.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. So thank you very much for sending in your comments for the Deadly Assassin. Dude, what are we going to do next week?
Next week, it's the Planet of the Ood 10th Doctor story. At least I hope it is, because my computer's just completely cracked up.
Cracked up.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, Planet of the Ood, I believe.
It is, yes.
Yeah, I'm staring at one of those sad faces that the internet gives you when a page is gone. You know the one? Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. But I believe it's Planet of the Ood.
You are correct. Mr. Tennant is back. We haven't done a Tennant one for a couple of quite a few weeks now. I think the last one was Love and Monsters, and he was only in that for a little bit.
Yeah. I always think this is a two-parter. I've no idea why. I always think of it's a two-parter, but it's not, is it? It's a one.
No, it's a one.
Yeah.
Yep.
No idea why I think that. Yeah.
And that'll be our last retro review before we start reviewing the Series 9 episodes, which is going to be an awesome time. So what we'll do is, as we've done previously with you guys, we will stop doing the retro reviews while Series 9 is on. So each week we'll just review those. And then once it finishes, we'll then go back to doing the retro ones. But I think what we will do after Series 9 is we'll start throwing in some of the Series 8 episodes in our retro reviews.
Oh, that'd be cool, yeah.
Because enough time's, kind of gone by for that now. So we can throw some Capaldi ones in there.
That would be great.
Which will be good. And I think we're going to wrap for 55 there, buddy.
Let's do it.
$55 done, in the can. And it's been very cool going through the news and the Deadly Assassin.
Yeah, I enjoyed talking through that one with you. In a strange way, I'm kind of glad you didn't enjoy it as much as me, because it made for quite an interesting discussion.
Yeah.
I'm not glad you didn't enjoy it, but you know what I mean.
No, Regi, because we can't have every episode amazing and everyone loves it. Otherwise it wouldn't be an interesting show or podcast. So it's all good. So I'm looking forward to Planet of the Ood next week. The Ood, I love that word. The Ood.
Ood, such a great name.
The Ood Sphere. So that's going to be cool. I haven't seen that one in a while.
I haven't seen it in ages.
Yeah, that'd be a good rewatch. So jump over to our website, www.bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all the past episodes on there. Plus you can jump off and like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and you can also subscribe in iTunes also. Anyone that's listening to this on a website on a one-off or whatever, and you're wondering how to subscribe, that's usually the easiest way through iTunes. But you can also find us on Stitcher and Player FM and some other bits and pieces. Just do a search for it, and it will come up somewhere. Also, check out Adam's channel, The Geek's Handbag, over on YouTube and on Facebook.
Yeah, new video out. Well, it'll be out tonight, which will be last night, depending on when you listen to this podcast.
Yes. Yeah, looking forward to that, mate.
Yeah, at last I'm back.
Yay. So we will see you next week. So get your Planet of the Ood DVDs out or Blu-rays and give those a watch, ready for our review. We've been asking for your thoughts and comments as usual. So until then, my name's Gary.
Gary, wait.
Oh, no. What?
The trivia question.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Because I know somebody got it right this week, didn't they?
A couple of people, yeah. So I'm very sorry about that. So, right, trivia. Last week, we asked you, which story did Roger Delgado's wife provide her voice? And a couple of people got it right. Alex Kingdom and Nick English. Thank you very much. The answer was, of course, Planet of the Spiders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very high-pitched voices.
Yeah. This week's trivia. On what planet are the Voltrox found?
Ooh.
Yeah. Jump onto Twitter and Facebook for those. Give us your answer and we'll read them out next week. Until then, my name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember,
Alonze!